Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. It is now 10:31, so I would love to call this meeting of the 52nd Cass Clay Food Commission to order. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'd like to begin by welcoming our newest commission member, Tim Flackel, joins us from the Cass County Commission. It is a pleasure to have you serving with us. Next item on our agenda is to approve the contents and order of our overall agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Copperwood.
Thank you.
Second, Kravinoff.
Marvelous. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Next, I'd like us to review the minutes that we received in our packet from November 13th. Is there a motion from anyone?
So moved, Henkel.
Thank you.
Second, Engler.
Marvelous. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Marvelous. Minutes from our November 13th, 2024 meeting pass. We now have another action item on our agenda is to approve appointments for our at-large members. And I would like to thank Karen Enger and Jeff York for joining us for another couple of years. And so it's nice to have at-large members who are eager and willing to serve multiple terms. So Karen is joining us for a second term, and this will be Jeff's third term on the Food Commission. We need an action for this as well to approve our members. Do I hear a motion?
Copperwood. So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Flackel.
Excellent. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. And thank you again for your service. We're going to go around and do some commission introductions. I'm going to go ahead and start, and we have to be sure to include the steering committee as well. My name is Heather Niesemeyer. I am the chair of the Food Commission, and I'm here on behalf of the city of Moorhead. We'll go to my left.
Okay. Paul Kravinoff, Clay County Commissioner, part of the Food Commission here, and then also I'm part of the steering committee.
Dave Steichen from Dilworth City Council.
Jeffrey Miller, Cass County Soil Conservation District.
Tim Flacco, District 1, which is where you're sitting right now, Cass County Commissioner since December 2nd of this year, so.
Joan Copperwood. I'm at large on my second term.
John Strand, Fargo City Commission.
Anna Johnson at large.
Karen Engler at large.
Paul Henkel, City of Horace.
Jeff York at large.
I'm Janice Tweed. I'm with the Great Plains Food Bank and chair of the steering committee.
Noel Hardin, University of Minnesota Extension.
Cheryl Stitz, Fargo Cass Public Health.
Erica Frank, Clay County Planning and Zoning.
Rory Beal, Clay County Public Health.
Deb Haugen, retired public health nutritionist.
Rita Estatis, NDSU Extension, Cass County.
Adam Altenberg, Fargo Moorhead Metropolitan Council of Governments.
Excellent. Thank you again for all being with us this morning. Our next agenda item is updates from the steering committee. I'll hand it over to Janice, who will share what has happened since our last meeting in November. Thank you, Janice.
Great. Thank you, Chair Niesemeyer. Let me just pull up the presentation here. All right, so I just have a few updates, just kind of going off of over the last year. Of course, we did strategic planning, and so you will notice a shift in our overall agenda where we are moving the steering committee updates to the beginning of the agenda. We'll just kind of be able to review where we are with the strategic plan and kind of set the stage for our meetings, and we'll keep that cadence going moving forward. So just a reminder to kind of ground us in our new mission, vision, and values, the first year of these changes. So the new mission is fostering a sustainable, thriving, and inclusive food system for all. You can see our new vision there, We envision a Cass Clay area that food system has thriving farms and food businesses, diverse food cultures, access to foods that nourish the mind, body, and spirit, and flourishing ecosystems. And the values that we adopted through the strategic planning process were fostering access, cultivating resilience, and improving community health. So just a reminder and maybe education for the new people who are joining our commission this year. So the Cass Clay Food Commission is part of the overall Cass Clay Food Partners. There are 3 arms to that, being the Cass Clay Food Commission here in the room today. We also have the steering committee, who we was just introduced and sitting behind me. The steering committee is really trying to guide the work forward and working collaboratively with the 3 arms to make sure that we are creating spaces and making community around local food system. We do also have the Food Action Network. So for those of you who maybe have been familiar with Food of the North, that dissolved a little over a year ago, they were part of the Action Network. Since that organization dissolved, we did spend a lot of time over the last year really revamping what that action network looks like. You've been seeing the newsletter in your inbox, and so really just doing a few events over the last year. And so 2025 will really be a year for that newly formed action network to really kind of take off as well. So we did get to do introductions for the steering committee, but I did just put that in here too, just as a reminder that the steering committee is really here to support the work, and we are very open to hearing from you if there's things in your communities that you're hearing about and want to bring into this space or into the steering committee's purview in any way. Please do feel free to reach out to any of us. We want to make sure that we are staying really diving into the food system in the ways that local communities want. And so do want to be able to have that really, a robust working relationship between all 3 arms. So please feel free to reach out to any of us as needed. So during this time in the future, we will also be doing strategic planning updates. And so no boxes have been checked yet, of course, here just in the second week of the year here. But we did, as a steering committee, meet in December to kind of go through what pieces of the strategic plan we wanted to focus on in 2025. And so for those of you who remember, there are 3 different strategic priorities within the strategic plan. First is the connections and governance, and that's really focusing on the steering committee work, or at least the steering committee kind of being the driver of that priority. And within that, we're really prioritizing structuring and kind of creating foundation to our governance structure. So formalizing the creating bylaws, I should say. We are going to form a work group to focus in on that. We welcome people from the different arms too. That would not have to be just steering committee. So if that is something that you're interested in or have expertise in governance structures, we'd love to have anyone join that work group with us. Thinking of work groups really as the way we want to go to, and instead of embedding standing committees, subcommittees into our work, we're thinking more of those work groups. So forming together to work for a short period on a particular issue and then dissolving when that issue has been resolved. So that would be a shorter term commitment, just helping us get that structure set. Also forming an onboarding work group. And this work group in particular, we did want to make sure we are encompassing people from all 3 arms and having it really set up to be so that we can have specific onboarding materials and information for how people are engaging with us. So having a specific onboarding for new commissioners, one for new steering committee members, and for new Action Network members. So there will be a work group forming around that too. And again, we would love to have some commission representation in there to help formalize that. We know that we have heard too in the past that some people feel when they come into the space, they're not really sure where to come in or how to engage right away. And so we really want to be mindful of that so that when people are joining us in this space, that they feel like they can learn and really hit the ground running and become involved quickly and easily. And then within that too, we will also have creating a strategic planning tracker. So that's where that will come into this meeting space where we will keep you updated on all of the pieces of the strategic plan throughout the year. Second priority is communication education, really focusing on that action network piece. And so over the next year, really digging into the newsletter that was established last summer, potentially renaming that, distributing responsibilities so that it is more foundational and more structured. You'll see a theme maybe through some of these things of really trying to create sustainable pieces, and really trying to bring the newsletter and the other events and really intertwine the different arms of the food partners. So you will see in the next newsletter, we're trying to bring in the kudos into the newsletter and try to highlight the same organizations through the newsletter as we're doing through the opportunities here within the commission. So hopefully seeing more integration between the arms through the work of the Action Network. Also looking into ways we can engage more into the community. And so that might be tabling at different booths, participating or sponsoring different events that already happen within our community. Also looking into the potential of other events that we should be hosting to bring people together as well. We do also want to work with other organizations, just making sure that we are more connected and that people in the community know that the food partners are here as a resource on food systems issues. One of the other pieces that they're really interested in diving into is the public comment period of our commission meetings here. For those of you who have been with us for a while, you know that that's not always maybe the most popular part of our agenda. So really working to reframe those, make sure the public knows that this is a space that they can come in and share about if they're interested in local food issues or are seeing something in their community. So we're really going to be working to highlight that so that we can hopefully have more community members taking advantage of that public input time. The third priority focuses on more of the commission aspects and the policies and practices there where we are doing our work. And so for those of you who have been with us for a while also know we have blueprints, we have snapshots, we have issue briefs, we have a lot of documentation. And we really want to look at that, make sure that we have a cadence for how we're updating those documents, make sure that those documents are still useful, relevant, and known by community and commissioner members, by the intended audience that those exist to be able to help move work forward. So you will see a matrix developed as well where we can see what jurisdictions have implemented these. So as a community member might be able to say, backyard chickens being the great example, a more recent example, as we see one community adopting a policy, other communities might come in. And so having those resources of being able to go to a matrix and say, oh, this is what my jurisdiction has in place for this policy or maybe doesn't have in place. As I mentioned, the policy documents also need to be reviewed, of course, to make sure they stay relevant. So we will be establishing a cadence so that they are reviewed. When they are reviewed, that will also come back to the commission to kind of see what those updates are so that everyone's aware of the policy documents. We also want to use our roundtable time to make sure that we are promoting local food events too. So just taking advantage of that already scheduled time we have on our agendas for these commission meetings, making sure that we're connecting on what some of those different events are in our different jurisdictions. Also, 2025 will mark 10 years of the Food Commission. And so we really want to make sure that we're leaning into that, highlighting all the wonderful work that has been done over the last 10 years. And really, especially with our strategic plan, feel that we're really in a place to kind of move forward and grow too, but really taking into consideration those last 10 years and all the work that's been done as well. One thing that I skipped over here too is considering a framework for historical pillars. So within the strategic planning process, we often were coming back to those initial meetings that really did set up the Food Commission and really ties in well with that 10 years too, where we have historical pillars. Is that my next slide? Yes, okay. We have these historical pillars that have been established through processes in the past. And so really leaning into what those are and creating new framework documents, which we will see a little later today, about these different areas. So of the historical pillars, they are urban agriculture, food infrastructure, outreach and education, economic development, and food access. So really putting into place framework documents so that we can have an overarching theme and really try to connect again back to all of the policy blueprints and all of the work that we're doing. And so you will also see through our meetings through the year, we are going to strive to focus on one of these historical pillars at each of our commission meetings. And so today you will see more on urban agriculture focus, and then Anna will be presenting the newest version of the urban agricultural framework that she put together off of the changes made from the November meeting, feedback that we gained on that as well. Turning it more into a framework document, being kind of that overarching, this is what urban agriculture and food policy can mean. All right, that is all of my updates. I do also want to share that the steering committee does meet monthly, and so if any commission members are interested in attending the steering committee meetings as well, you are always welcome to do so. We meet the fourth Monday of the month at 1 o'clock at MetroCog. I believe that's January 27th coming up, but if you're ever interested in coming to a steering committee, we always invite you to do that as well. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Marvelous. Thank you, Janice. I just want to highlight all of the work that has been put in by the commission and the steering group. Strategic planning is a huge effort, but I often feel in my historical experiences, the strategic plan goes on the shelf and we don't really see it again until the 5 or 10 years later. And so what I really want to elevate is having a work plan and having that put together and having a theme of connecting all of our arms with our community members and making sure that we're making a difference in local food systems. And so I really want to highlight and appreciate all of the work that went in. It wasn't just, oh, we've got an agenda quick to put together. This is months and years of work, and it's really nice to see it highlighted at today's meeting. So thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for Janice or the steering committee members? No? All right. We will move on to the next agenda item. Thank you again, Janice. I would like to welcome Anna Johnson, who happens to be one of our commission members, but she also brought forth a proposal for an urban agriculture and zoning framework at our November meeting. And she took in that feedback and, as part of her graduate education, has brought to us this framework that we will be voting on today. So Anna, thank you again for joining us for this presentation. We're really excited to see.
All right. Hi, everyone. As I've been introduced, my name is Anna Johnson. I'm a registered dietitian and am in a master's program for nutrition, which is what has led me to this project. And in November, you may recall, I presented on a blueprint draft for urban agriculture and zoning. And based on some of the feedback we got, felt that this framework might be a better fit, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. Just a refresher on urban agriculture and how it connects to the food system. Local food is a trending area of the food system, a growing area of the food system. And urban agriculture helps us do that because urban dwellers have the opportunity to grow their own food. It is such a growing area that the USDA developed an Office of Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production. So that's a new area of the Office of the USDA. And urban agriculture can be things like growing your own food, gardening, which is a very common and very old practice, but it might mean growing in a front yard, which is less traditional, or growing on a boulevard, a community garden or a market garden. And it also involves raising animals or animal husbandry in urban areas. So things like keeping chickens or goats or even bees in urban areas fits into this urban agriculture topic. And a little less common is, but frequent or just as important to talk about, are things like aquaponics or hydroponics, where you're raising fish or plants in different ways. As I've been researching this topic and doing a lot of reading and learning, just a few of the takeaways that I wanted to highlight is that it's important when you're talking about urban agriculture to discuss the pros and cons equally. Frequently, the pros get a lot of attention, the benefits get a lot of attention, but that, from the research that I've read, can lead to misallocation of resources. So it's equally important to talk about some of the challenges in urban agriculture so that resources, or agricultural resources, are allocated in the best way possible. And then within urban agriculture, critical to talk about equity, as a lot of these efforts might not be as accessible to all of our neighbors in our community. So equity is a big focus of the framework document. So as I mentioned, in November, I presented on a potential blueprint for zoning and urban agriculture. The audience of that document was more for policymakers and intending to inform on zoning's impact on urban agriculture. With that, we were looking to encourage zoning policy that supported urban agriculture as the next steps. As we adjusted to this framework, this is a newer document for the Cass Clay Food Partners. The audience is more going to be for food partner members to educate and share resources on urban agriculture. So it will get us all on the same kind of knowledge base on the topic. And then it will also help us to, as Janice talked about as part of our strategic plan, to evaluate the current blueprints and highlight those gaps. So that is done just briefly in the framework document with this resource matrix. This is just a portion of the matrix, but it highlights some of the topics that were covered in the urban agriculture framework, and then the Cass Clay Food Partners documents that address them, if they are addressed in Cass Clay Food Partners documents. Within this, I also have the year highlighted, so that will help us determine some of the documents that might need to be updated. And that is all I have for the presentation, but I expect there to be some questions, so I wanted to leave plenty of time for that.
Marvelous. Thank you, Anna. Are there any questions regarding the framework that has been presented today that we are looking to approve if it is the wish of the commission and add to our resources, and then use this framework and resource to assess what we already have on the books and available?
I'll certainly make a motion. I think these things are all vitally important and worth the time to get traction, develop new depths of information, and recognize that I firmly believe anyway that all these things are important within our communities. As thinking about healthy foods, thinking about accessibility, you mentioned equity, different culturally generated food supplies. I think we have that opportunity and a quick diversity, if you will, throughout our communities to do so when we look at urban rather than always rural, and not such a big commercial space, but a more localized space. So with that, I certainly would have moved for approval of the urban agricultural framework.
Marvelous. Thank you, Commissioner Kravinoff. Is there a second?
I will second this with a couple of comments. I just want to appreciate that Anna has taken this on as a project. I think that it's been very helpful for the commission and for, again, the steering committee and for the Fargo-Moorhead and surrounding area to have you do this. I think we will all reap the benefits of this. Again, as you pointed out at the beginning, this is certainly important, and it's gaining momentum. So I think it's really good to get ahead of this. I think the matrix is very helpful, and I know when you and I were working on our little subgroup, we talked about this, and I think more of the documents will be able to have you kind of leading the way with some of the work that you've done on this. So thank you, and with that, I second the motion.
Marvelous. Any further discussion, questions, comments?
I got a quick comment. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for your work. On the blueprints that aren't addressed, this is just a starting point, and those are yet to come, I'm guessing, is that?
Yeah, we'll have to determine how we want to use the framework to start working on other documents or updating, but that would tie into the work plan that we have for the strategic plan.
Could you go back to that slide with the,
Yeah.
I guess the very last one? So, is there certain ones that you would probably focus on that aren't addressed right now? I mean,
This is just a portion of it, so it's not the full matrix. I don't have a specific one. I think it would be benefit the whole Food Partners Network to have somewhat of an action plan when updating and evaluating these documents.
And I'm guessing there's communities that you can look at to see where they, or is this kind of bold new area for you?
So the framework, I believe, is intended to inform some of the blueprint and snapshot issue brief documents. So it's kind of a launching point for those. So getting the basic information, basic education on urban agriculture, and then from there, hopefully someone would feel more equipped to work on a blueprint document. As part of our strategic plan, in I think it's priority 3, we have a point that we would like outside members and external community members to help us with some of these documents if they have an interest in that area. So ideally, the framework would better support them in doing that work.
Well, thanks for all your work. I do support the motion.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't know if you can answer this right now, but how does this, or does this continuing work fit in with your master's degree plan, or was your project to get this far with it? In other words, do you know what your possible involvement will be moving this forward?
As far as my schooling goes, I don't have plans to continue to work on this, but being a member, an at-large member, and just having the passion for the food systems work that I do, I would be happy and willing to continue working on some documents.
Marvelous. Well, I want to thank you again, Anna, for bringing this. I think that you highlighted so many great things, and it echoes what Janice had shared with us about the steering committee, really highlighting how our theme this year is connecting and how everybody in the community, anybody from any of the 3 legs, can really interact with our blueprints, our frameworks, and all of those things. And I think you highlighted that. And having a goal of equity and accessibility, I think, is a fantastic way to start 2025. And it may be disconcerting for some folks to look at the matrix because it potentially hasn't been addressed, but I think we've got a lot of potential and a lot of energy just in our room of really great people, movers and shakers, if you will, who really enjoy interacting with people within the food system. And that's what makes this commission so great. And highlighting this new framework and bringing it to us to start off 2025 is absolutely fabulous. So thank you again. We've got a motion and a second on the table. We're going to do a roll call vote this time. And so I'm going to welcome Adam to start the roll call vote.
Engler,
Approved.
Flackel,
Aye.
Henkel,
Aye.
Johnson, would you like to vote or abstain?
Abstain.
Okay. Copperwood,
Approved.
Krabenhoft,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Nissemeyer,
Yes.
Steichen,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
York,
Aye.
and did I miss anyone?
No, thank you very much. The motion passes, and we will now move on to our next agenda item. Again, highlighting that opportunity to bring anything forward that's a topic of interest in a community. We have a backyard chickens review on our docket today. The city of Fargo received a request to up the number of chickens. They currently have 4, but they are looking at exploring having 6 chickens. And so the steering committee has put together some information for all of us to review about regulations in our community and in the metro area. And so I'm going to turn it over to Adam to update us on urban chickens.
All right. Well, thank you, Chair. This item comes at the request of Commissioner Strand. This is something that he wanted the Food Commission to discuss at today's meeting. And this comes back to an item that the Fargo City Commission received back in August of 2024, when during their public comment period, a member of the public asked the City Commission if they would consider raising the number of chickens that are allowed in the city of Fargo from 4 currently to 6. No action was taken at that meeting, but the commission members did ask for this idea to be vetted through different channels, one of those being the Cass Clay Food Partners and the Cass Clay Food Commission. As a little bit of history, Fargo has allowed up to 4 chickens in residential zoning districts since May of 2017. There was a temporary ordinance right at the beginning of COVID that upped that number from 4 to 6. And that was from May 2020 to September. So it was only about 5 months where that ordinance was in effect. We don't know if anybody really took advantage of that during that time, but that did sunset then the fall of 2020 and did move back down to 4 chickens. But it's our understanding that this request has been received also by the city auditor's office. But again, we just want to discuss that here today at this meeting here today. So looking at different jurisdictions in their area and what they allow for backyard chickens, most of our urban area jurisdictions, as well as the counties, do allow chickens with some caveats. They're permitted in Moorhead, Fargo, and West Fargo. Moorhead adopted an ordinance back in 2023, I believe. I'm correct with that?
Yes.
And then West Fargo recently adopted an ordinance to allow urban chickens this year. Dilworth is the only urban jurisdiction that doesn't allow them. Horace is a little different. They are permitted in certain zoning districts, those being the agricultural zoning district, and then the suburban residential 1 zoning district. These are zoning districts that are 1 acre or more. So that's just a little bit of background here for that. With Cass County, they're generally permitted, but there are zoning is regulated by townships in Cass County, so there are townships that might have specific zoning regulations regarding chickens in Cass County. So how the number of chickens that are allowed per jurisdiction, again, Fargo currently allows 4. Moorhead allows 6 for permit holders on properties of 1 to 2 dwelling units, but they've recently amended their ordinance that now allows up to 12 chickens on lot sizes that are 1 acre or more. So these are areas like in Oakport Township and in some of the rural, less developed areas of the city. West Fargo, when they adopted their ordinance this year, they allow up to 6 chickens per permit holder in properties, again, with 1 or 2 dwelling units. Dilworth, chickens aren't allowed. And then again with Horace, chickens are allowed with conditional use permits in the suburban residential zoning district. A number isn't specified in your zoning regulations, but there is information that if it's over 50, then it would be deemed a feedlot. So that's what the city of Horace has for that. Looking at the number of permits in our residential area, there's approximately 50 active permit holders in Fargo, Moorhead, and West Fargo. Over the years, complaints have been minimal. In the last year, I believe the city of Fargo has received 1 complaint about urban chickens. Moorhead has received 5 complaints since 2023, although none of these have been related to active permit holders. And then since West Fargo has adopted an ordinance to allow urban chickens, there have been 3 complaints, but only one of those has been related to an active permit holder. The others weren't active permit holders. So should Fargo move to allow 6 chickens, we tried to think about what the potential issues might be for the city of Fargo. The biggest one was just that if people with existing coops that have 4 that want to have 6 chickens, existing coop sizes would need to be expanded. Right now in the zoning codes, each chicken requires 4 square feet within coops and then 10 square feet within fenced-in chicken runs. So owners who maybe built their coops a couple years ago thinking that they were only going to have 4, if they were going to add additional chickens, they would need to expand those coops before allowing for additional birds. The other caveat with that is it would also require reinspection of existing coops. That's one of the requirements when you apply for a permit, that a person will come out to inspect the coop and make sure that it's up to standards. So those are really the only issues that we could really think of that if should the city of Fargo move to allow up to six chickens. And then just some previous background information, there's a number of resources online, both in the Cass Clay Food Partners and then within Extension Services, both NDSU and U of M. You may remember too, Cass Clay Food Partners, they did a series of videos a couple years back. So if you go to the City of Fargo's YouTube page, there is a backyard chicken keeping video that we did put together as well for people to learn more about urban chickens. So that's really all that we had for today's discussion. Again, this is something that was brought forward by Commissioner Strand just to talk and maybe be vetted here by the commission. But with that, I don't know, Commissioner Strand, if you had any comments or.
I do, Adam. That's really great information. Thank you for compiling that. And I've had a few people reach out, some emails and calls, and in my sense, this should come through the Food Commission as a recommendation if that's our desire. You know, if your thinking is that we kind of have a similar policy from one city to the next or not, that I'd be very open to carrying that to the City Commission if the Food Commission would advance that. Adam, I think this came from the Food Commission and Kim Satowski years ago, if I remember right. So my sense is that's the proper channel, and it would give us the impetus to have the right advocacy group asking for it. So that's where my head's at, is if this commission here would suggest to Fargo that we consider modifying our policies to mirror the others, and in my head, that's the number of chickens from 4 to 6, I would happily carry that forward. And Madam Chair, I don't know the process, if we need a formal motion or if we need to come back, or I don't know.
We could take a formal motion to move forward. I'm going to open it up for discussion or thoughts. I know we have a variety of representatives, both at large and from municipal groups, just to provide maybe some insights or comments on how your community arrived at approving or not approving, or if it's even under consideration and discussion. I'm going to open it up for discussion from commissioners. Yeah.
Either question for Adam or Commissioner Strand. So in I'm fine with moving to 6 like West Fargo and Moorhead have. I have no problem with that. But just a curiosity question: does it require any kind of variance? Does it count towards the amount of coverage of square footage on your property? So as an example, right now I'm like within like 0.24% of full coverage, where I'd have to have a variance if I were to add another foot wider on my garage. Is this counted towards that coverage?
I could take that quick. So currently it's an accessory use. So generally the lot size shouldn't matter. It just that it may impact where the placement of a current coop is. If you were to expand that on your property, that's the only thing I can think of. But beyond that, it wouldn't have any other impacts on a person's properties.
Any other discussion or questions? Yeah.
I may. I'm going to turn this on again. There we go. If I may, maybe I'd refer to you, Heather. Can you give a little background when the update was made to Moorhead, and especially the one that intrigues me is up to 12 on the 1 acre or more?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
In my opinion, that's awesome. But I just kind of the pros and cons that you heard. And this is maybe I almost hesitate. Well, I'll bring it up. Is there science anywhere of a certain density in any potential urban area where things such as avian flu come in, where, it creates a greater risk at a certain density than other? I don't know if that even be known anywhere, but just curious.
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know if anybody else in the steering committee does. Or
Yeah. And I'm just, and again, it's far from commercial, right?
Yeah.
Where we kind of hear the stories, and even there, it's rare, but it does happen. And I can only think that sometimes in conversation, people can tend to, in the conversation, bring out the worst, and I would hate to see anything embellished, against this. So, anyway.
Thank you for that question, Commissioner Kravinoff. I can speak not to the avian flu. I can speak to the recent updates that we did in 2024 for the city of Moorhead. There were some concerns about starting urban ag with the allowance of animals. Keep in mind, we have an opportunity for sheep to graze in Oakport. That's also on the books. But opportunity that we had was to pass something, try it out for a year, and then explore it. And at the beginning, there was a lot of discussion between 4 and 6 chickens. And the discussion was oftentimes when you order or you receive chicks, they come in batches of 6. And what would happen if we were limiting that opportunity for people to order or to get from other spaces that had the minimum of 6? And so we chose 6, but of course it doesn't require 6, it's up to 6. And so families that wish to have something smaller, similar to what Adam had said, your placement, of course, depends on the specifications for zoning and placement within each individual ordinance. And that was some of the updates that we did, was that size of the coop, we expanded that. And that was just for health and safety because we received feedback from folks that sometimes the fencing was not allowing air and movement. And so updating that to be more flexible and have options, but also to make them larger. The great thing that I appreciated about our new ordinance is that it grandfathered in those who had already had permits and built a structure or a coop or something on their property. So people who had already bought in and were engaging with their families or their neighbors on that coop didn't have to expand or make any adjustments or have any financial repercussions from that new ordinance. And so that's something that I really appreciated about our update, is that its goal was health, safety, and accessibility of both humans and chickens alike. And so that was, I would say, the primary change was making more options. And, as Adam mentioned, there are requirements. You can't have your chicken coop in your front yard in Moorhead, but there are specifications to allow additional numbers because we have properties in spaces within the city of Moorhead, like Oakport, where typically have larger lots, and they may have larger lots and want to have a business or share, and the opportunity to feed your family or feed your neighbors or have a market is really a wonderful opportunity, and we wanted to support that part of this food system and urban agriculture. And so allowing, if you have space, to have more chickens was an ask of residents, and I was really glad to see that city council members heard that. Staff was eager to incorporate that into the new ordinance, and we were able to make that adjustment for the entire community.
Well, thank you. That was great response. So,
Yes,
thank you.
yes. Any other questions or comments?
I can just add too, I pulled up one of the resources that I remember reading about concerns with disease in chickens. And as long as you're maintaining your coop and following sanitation procedures, the risk is really minimal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Anyone else? Yes, Jim.
Just curious, so what are the nature of the complaints? And will adding more chickens, granted it's a very small amount, but I'm just curious.
Of what I know, for the one in West Fargo, the one person that is a permit holder, it was just that their chickens had gotten out of their coop and were running around. Otherwise, I'm not entirely sure if there are noise complaints or if it's just that birds have gotten loose and what the nature of those other complaints are.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would probably add to that, I think one of the most common complaints, and it's no fault really of the owner initially, is they had a rooster. And it went from a little baby that didn't make any sound to one that was crowing a lot throughout the day. There's a misconception that they only crow like at 7 a.m. and they don't have a clock to know that. But I think one of the other nice things about this for Commissioner Strand is that it really is a good project for families and people with children to help understand the food systems and give them chores and responsibilities. And, my neighbor has chickens and they're holding them like they're just normal pets. So I think there's a lot of auxiliary benefits beyond just that they provide some eggs.
Thank you, Commissioner Flacco. I agree. I think sometimes the complaints are noise and it's not basic chickens. It's that in the group of 6, they ended up getting a gent. And that rooster, I think it's a great educational opportunity for the families. But also included in our ordinance for the city of Moorhead is the ability to slaughter your animals if you wish. And I know a lot of people are like, what do you do with all the roos that you get? And a lot of families have been able to turn it still into a sustainable part of the food system in case that does happen. So I don't believe any of the ordinances in our metro area allow roosters, but occasionally it does happen. Nature happens. And so I think some of those accommodations, I recall one complaint from the city of Moorhead. It was that they were sort of free ranging and getting out, like Adam had said. And another was they were concerned for the welfare of the chickens because they saw their neighbor had had chickens, but wasn't following the ordinance. And so it was more of an educational opportunity like, hey, you can do a lot of great things, but please just follow these rules and regulations. And so I think, at least in the city of Moorhead, our goal is not like gotcha and catcha and take things away or put structures in that you can't live within, but rather to educate, get feedback, and build policies and ordinances around that feedback. Any other thoughts or discussion items? Oh, yes, from the steering committee.
If I could just make a suggestion based on some feedback that we received from a Fargo chicken permit holder. I think while you're looking, if it's possible, while you're looking at the number of chickens, it could be helpful to do what Moorhead did and look at the specifications again for the coop and the run. As Commissioner Niesemeyer suggested, they tried to make those requirements a little more flexible and I think allow like a 10 or 20% variance from the recommended specifications. And the reason I think it would be good to look at that is when we met with one of the Fargo chicken permit folks, they actually had to build their own coop and run in order to meet the specifications, and informed us that the kind of mass-produced, standard manufactured coops and runs did not match the specifications typically laid out in the City of Fargo ordinance. So that kind of forced them in this situation. In order to meet the requirements, they had to build it themselves. So I think that those specifications could be another part of the policy that might be worth revisiting.
That's an excellent feedback item. I think highlighting again the framework that Commissioner Johnson just presented to us, right? That zoning and urban ag with the lens of equity, and who has the ability to follow the expectations and the requirements of the ordinance. And I'm not terribly handy. I couldn't build my own coop. And so that might, should I live in the city of Fargo, have limited my family, even the possibility of that. And so I just want to highlight back that equity framework that we just approved, yay, and say that that might be a great additional feedback, Commissioner Strand, when you go back to the city of Fargo. Any other questions or thoughts? Did I see another one from the steering committee? No? Oh, yes.
Madam Chair, I'm looking at, thinking of process, and we have 3 different jurisdictions that have ordinances, it sounds like. There's some variances and differences. Maybe the way forward, Adam and team, is to have this, if you're all open to it, send this topic to the steering committee with Adam kind of directing the boat, work it through, come back to us with a recommendation for any jurisdiction, whether it's for Fargo or for any others. But I don't want to just go blindly to the city of Fargo. And I also want it to come through to us with, have some thoughtful discussion and vetting. And our next meeting isn't until March anyway, so people won't probably start chickens quite yet anyway. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me see if I heard you correctly, Commissioner Strand. You are looking to, based on the matrix and the number of documents that the Food Commission already has, you are raising backyard chickens to the top of the list of things that we review with this new framework first, and perhaps bring that back with recommendations or changes to that blueprint and document.
Correct. Is it, and if that's, okay, there, but I'd make that motion, we send this to our steering committee to come back to us with a recommendation for Fargo and/or any jurisdiction.
I would just say updates to the blueprint.
Perfect. That's
Is
even
that
better.
Is that generic and general enough? So it would be applicable to Horace or
Perfect.
Sabin or any of our communities in our metro area.
Right.
Okay, so I heard a motion to send work to the steering committee to address the blueprint on backyard chickens and a review with our new urban agriculture framework and bring back in March something to review and put into work. Is there a second?
I'll second. Miller?
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? No? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Excellent work. Thank you, everyone, for engaging so well on that backyard chicken review. Our next agenda item is the Great Plains Greens presentation. I'm going to welcome Dylan Calvin up to the podium to provide us more information on this company. And there's an additional one-page flyer that we were handed out with our packet information. Packet information, so we're good. We're good, Dylan, and we are ready for your fantastic presentation. Welcome.
Awesome. Okay, sounds good. Well, yeah, hopefully you guys had a chance to review the flyer that I sent over. I guess really my goal for the next few minutes is to answer your guys' questions and hear what I might be able to help advise on, but maybe just some quick opening remarks about Great Plains Greens and what we're doing here in the Fargo-Moorhead community. We started a little over 2 years ago. We grow lettuce hydroponically in a shipping container over in West Fargo. We originally started this company with the mission to provide for a more sustainable agricultural future and help with our local food supply chain. As you guys know, North Dakota is a very meat and potato state, and actually a funny story. These containers were in 49 out of 50 states, and North Dakota was the last state to get one. And so we were happy to do that and excited to do that. And the benefits of this type of farming, right, is that we can grow year round, right? Traditional row crops and stuff aren't going to be grown in containers anytime soon, but specialty crops, which is a specific crop that we're not growing here in Fargo and North Dakota in general, compared to our West Coast, states, is something that we could diversify our crop base with. And so we kind of came in not knowing what we were going to do. Initially, we started selling to restaurants. I've met with dozens of chefs in the community and managers and owners trying to understand what they're looking for and how we can come alongside them and better support their businesses. We also do what's called farm to school. We sell to 2 different school districts right now, Dilworth, Glendon, Felton, and Hawley school districts, and work with them just providing basic salad greens, leafy greens, some herbs. And we also do online e-commerce sales today, so 3 different revenue streams. I'm an open book. Feel free to ask me any questions you guys would like. Really just want to maximize your time.
Marvelous. Thank you, Dylan. Are there any questions about Great Plains Greens, Dylan, his colleagues, the shipping container that has green, beautiful magic inside? Yes.
Just a quick question. A few years ago, I was at Central Lakes College in Staples, Minnesota. Are you aware of the work they do there?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. I was just wanting to know if there was a connection with that. They had one of these there. And,
got it.
And I was just curious if you were drawing education from the universities or any other.
We're trying to get one at NDSU, so working
okay.
on CEA grants there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Marvelous. Yes.
I have not been to the website, but I'm very excited and curious to learn more about this. So you mentioned connecting to restaurants and so on in schools. Is this available for sale? I mean, any of your in the local grocery stores, or are there opportunities for individuals to purchase the greens or?
Yeah, so individuals can purchase it online. Through our website, we have information on there on how to purchase our products online. We work through a local co-op called the Red River Harvest Co-op, which maybe some of you are familiar with them, but they're essentially an online farmers market. And so we work with them to sell our crops through their co-op, and other local farmers do that as well, so.
Great, thank you.
So Joan, you could place your order this week for greens and pick them up
Get
next
on my-
week. I know, it's really exciting. Any
Yeah, come
other
talk to me, you know. we'll
comments
figure
or
it out.
questions for our guests?
I am curious about your water and heat source for your storage container.
Yeah, we're just plugged into city water. And actually, we have to cool down our container because it's all artificial lighting. So it's these LED lighting, and I can get into the real nerdy history of why CEA is about because of the lights, really, and the innovations that have happened around the intellectual property and lights and LED lights in like the last 10 years. But those lights just emit so much heat that we actually have to cool off the container. It's kind of like data centers, right? Actually, there is a bit of a spatial arbitrage of doing this type of technology in North Dakota. But just plugged into city water, plugged into city power, utility line power. Really easy. We use under 150 gallons a month. Like, that doesn't even come close to getting charged for that amount. I think you have to cross the threshold. It's like 2,000 in West Fargo before you even get charged for water. So very minimal water that we have to use.
Yes.
Is it, toward that, does it take daily use of water? And where I'm coming with is, every now and then we get water restrictions in the summertime. And I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, no,
Or maybe they don't consider it water in your lawn.Maybe it's.
No, they
You see
don't.
what I'm getting at?
No, it's there's a 150 gallon tank in the back of the farm, and I drain it and fill it once a month. That's it. So
Makes sense.
I was
Yeah.
thinking, Commissioner Flacco, did you have
A quick question being, how often do you flip your containers a year, or realizing there's different products you have that some take longer than others to get to harvest, but generally speaking, about how often do you turn them over?
Yeah, so the crop rotation is going to depend on the crop and what we're selling. So some people prefer to buy the whole lettuce head with the roots still attached. The typical week for like a head of lettuce would be like 7 weeks, 45 to 49 days to reach full maturity. And then some are cut and regrow, in which we can go through 2 or 3 cut or regrows before we take off the old plant and replant a new one. So, you have to wait a week or maybe 2 weeks between each cut and regrow. So that would be anywhere from 7 to like, say you do 3, which would be our max. You get very marginal return after like the second cut. So, but say you did 3 cuts, that'd be 6 more weeks. So, 7, 6, 13 weeks, would probably be the max before we're turning new crops in. And then, like I said, it also depends on the crop. We grow things like what we have grown, basil, are growing basil, sorrel, arugula, kale, Swiss chard, like 7 different varieties of lettuce, butterhead lettuce. So it really just depends on the crop, but I would say lettuce is our biggest seller, and that's the typical rotation.
I'm just curious, how much have you guys produced so far?
Yeah, man, I was just looking at these numbers the other day. So 2 years, I think in 2024, we were around 800 pounds. We're not fully sold out. Our full container we're not at full capacity. We know of farmers in other states with this similar container setup as we do that do like 100 pounds a week. So, but we haven't hit that threshold yet, so.
I'm just curious, I remember when people were years ago growing microgreens and providing them to local restaurants. Do you have a list of restaurants that want your local product that's locally grown?
Yeah, we do. We work with several different local restaurants, and we do grow microgreens as well. And I know several other local farmers in the area that grow microgreens and sell to not just restaurants, but also schools are taking them now. And I just find that to be the craziest thing that these students, I'm like, your lunches must be insane, But So we do that. It's a lot of the local restaurants that are more willing to adopt this type of, because to them and to chain restaurants for one have to go through a distributor because it's a commodity process there. Every restaurant needs to serve the same food. And so local restaurants are generally speaking more willing to work with a local vendor and want to at times because they feel it's a way to differentiate their services and give back to the community. So, lots of conversations with local restaurants. So
I'm going to continue on Commissioner Strand's strain of thought and say, are those local restaurants and businesses listed anywhere on the website? So those of us who are really keen on supporting local business, like layer upon layer upon layer of local stuff, could really look for, that opportunity to ingest your goody greens.
yeah, we've a couple different things. Sometimes we have what's called a chef shout out, where on our website we have just their commentary of like, how's it been working with Great Plains Greens? Some restaurants have asked us about, hey, can we put Great Plains Greens in our menu as like sourced by Great Plains Greens? So the lists could maybe be found through those shout outs of those chefs, as well as through our social media. We would do some posts there. Also I'm an open book, so you could find how to contact me, and I'd love to tell you about what wonderful businesses and restaurants are supporting us. So
Marvelous, thank you. And perhaps geek out about all the technology that goes into it. I am very surprised to not only hear of the output, but how little water and energy perhaps is taken in. That's really exciting. I think there could be science presentations at some of our local schools just to highlight the diversity and opportunities that we have. And yes, the lunch is much more than just rectangle pizza and canned vegetables. That's really great to hear that you have opportunities. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes.
Mr. Callan, thank you for your presentation. Your meeting or two back, we had a presentation from Concordia. I see you're thinking about getting one at NDSU, which seems like a logical fit. I think Concordia's idea was more of a tunnel system, but I'm not exactly sure because I forget some of and had some obstacles to overcome. Are you in contact with colleges other than NDSU, and if that would fit into what they are doing or would improve what they are doing right now?
Yeah, I'm not in contact with anyone at Concordia. It's funny you mentioned like bunker agriculture. After World War II, in Europe, a lot of their underground bunkers were actually converted to hydroponic farming systems or mushrooms. And so that's an interesting technology there. I haven't heard about them doing this. I'm not in contact with anyone there, but would love to be involved if I can be helpful. And I think the big thing for our community is CEA is somewhat of a new phenomenon. And with the way we've grown specialty crops in this country has been the same for 100 years. So this is very early adopters and people who are willing to come in and learn about this tech, and it's really growing. Investments in ag tech are growing, as we can see in the Fargo-Moorhead area. We work with companies like Grand Farm and hosting tours of the farm. I've gone into high schools and talked about our type of technology and how we got started. And so I think education and getting people more comfortable with this type of growing is key. And so the more we can collaborate with universities and with people in our community, I think would be something we're really interested in doing. I do think this tech is the future, just from a sustainability, from being able to work within your community, right? We not only feed local high schools, but hire local high schoolers, right? And it's a very rewarding thing. And so, if there's ways that Great Plains Greens can get involved and help, we'd love to be a part of that. So,
is this idea? It probably can't sustain itself financially. Is that correct, or?
I wouldn't say that. We did start. We received an APUC grant initially. So the initial round of funding was $200,000. 40% of that was grant funding from APUC. 40% of that was debt, and then 20% of that was equity between myself and two other partners. I would say we are at the early stages of this technology. It's not quite the Ford model, right? It's more of like a Mercedes. And so there is pretty large upfront costs to it. Without receiving that grant funding, it would have been very difficult to get this container to North Dakota. With that being said, I'm hopeful that there are companies and monies in it, and the technology costs will come down and the entry costs will come down. But yeah, it's from a variable cost of seeds, costs of the substrate, costs to run the farm. It's about, we rent land, it's $200 a month. The utilities is around $300. It's not that expensive, and we can make a profit selling produce in this region. We're at I know farmers who get twice the price point that we get here, which would make it more profitable, obviously. But just the upfront cost, really the fixed cost associated purchasing the container is very difficult. So it can be run profitably, but you have to pay off the container first. So
Part of Ms. Johnson's presentation, it was like hydroponics is not addressed. Is this something that would work in a small scale for, if it does come up for a blueprint that the average homeowner could? I've seen on TV where they have some PVC pipes and they got little stems, and I suppose that's a very simplistic way to do something, but can this be scaled to an average person?
yeah,
making it
there
workable?
are a few companies already out there growing what we'll call, so this is modular growing units, right? And they come in different sizes. Ours happens to be in the container size. There's ones as small as fit on this desk in front of me, a little bit bigger towers, they're called, vertical green towers, that would fit in like a closet, and it's a hydroponic or aeroponic growing system. It really comes down to the individual, right? If they want to take on the challenge of growing, it is an organic matter, right? There's plant disease risk, there's all sorts of things that you have to learn and that we're learning, right? Whereas if you could just find a great local company who's already doing these practices, right? We don't use any chemicals. We don't add any chemical preservatives on the product. We harvest and deliver within 12 hours. So it's as fresh can get, unless it comes from your garden or indoor growing unit. Yeah, there is tech for that. I don't know if it's going to scale. It's a little bit more of a hobby thing, I think, for those who want to do it. So
One last thing and I'll be done. Is this something that we as a commission or steering can go and look at? Just for more curiosity, or is it pretty much off limits?
absolutely. Yeah, I love hosting people, and it's like walking onto a spaceship is all I can describe it. It's very, very open to hosting tours.
I hear a food commission field trip coming up. It sounds real exciting. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Yeah, Dave stole my question. Field trip for sure. So I see on your website that it's you and Lee and John.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you say that you have some employees?
We do. We have a few part-time employees.
Okay. And then how far away do you deliver furthest?
Well, Holly would be the furthest, Holly School District today, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Excellent discussion. Any last thoughts or questions? No, thank you again for joining us today, Dylan. It is excellent to hear about your business and its participation in our local.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yes. All right, we are now going to move on to kudos and community support and recognition. We're going to turn it over to steering committee member Erica Franick.
Good morning, Commissioners. The steering committee would like to recognize Dilworth Glendon Felton Schools Share Cart program. It helps to reduce food waste by allowing students to share unwanted or unfinished food with others. Students can place unopened, prepackaged, and shelf-stable items like granola bars, crackers on the cart, as well as other fruits with intact skins and temperature-controlled items like milk and cheese. This initiative is part of a broader effort to combat food waste in Minnesota, where public schools generate nearly 500,000 pounds of waste daily. The program not only helps reduce waste, but also provides for students who may need it. Today we have with us Shannon, the Director of Nutrition Services at DGF. So please help me in congratulating her and welcoming her today. And I have some goodie bags.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shannon Nowak, and I am the Director of Nutrition Service for the Dilworth Glendon Felton School District. And before I start, I want to say I am so glad I came early today this is such a passionate group. And I love the idea of the chickens and everything that's going into what you're doing. Part of my passion started 19 years ago when I got involved in school food, because I feel that there's really a huge disconnect with our society and our students to where our food comes from, what food actually is, whether it taste, the look, I mean, just everything from growing. So you guys are spot on when you start talking about raising chickens and the responsibility of bringing them up from a chick to how we're going to process them. So kudos to you guys and the great work that you're doing. A little bit about our program. Back in the winter of 2023, we started really looking at our food systems, where we're at, where we want to go. We have a phenomenal superintendent that is very much driven for community and the students and farm to school. So that really launched this process of where we go. Dylan is one of the local farmers that we do utilize in our program, but through all of this, local foods really help reduce our waste that is going into our landfills. Our share bin is part of, it's a tool in that process that we utilize to give the students an opportunity that foods that they aren't going to eat to be able to be repurposed to other students within the school that could use that. So, I wish I could tell you it's some great elaborate process that we use, but really what it is it's a cold crock that we have out there. And as the students come through, if they find that there's foods that they particularly aren't going to eat because they're full or for whatever reason, they can place it in this cold crock and other students can come up and help themselves to that. Some programs allow, depending on health inspectors, on this prepackaged stuff can go back, be circulated back into the programs. We find that it's all utilized. So we don't have anything that needs to come back in. Another tool that we use within that process also to reduce the waste is we have started packaging meals that will go home with our students. So we work with counselors and funnel that out into our communities. So you have any questions for me about, like I said, I wish I could tell you it was a huge, elaborate process, but it's really not. It's a very simple procedure that really benefits our students and our community.
And helps reduce some of that 500,000 pounds of food waste with just how many beautiful bellies that are learning could be fed with that food. Could you tell us, is it at all of the DGF schools? I know that there are a number.
Yep. It's at both our Dilworth and our Glendon sites. So absolutely.
Marvelous. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Maybe the dumbest question in the world, but you have every kid in Minnesota eats for free.
Yes.
So how does that change? How did that affect everything or change anything or when they're buying it and some get it and some don't? I'm just curious how that looks. When everybody's fine, and I'm glad they're all eating food.
So do you mean as far as participation or as far as the equity across for the students or?
There's no tickets, there's no purchasing, is there? Or there's no cards or?
Well, so we have an a la carte program. So students, everybody, every day we offer full salad bars. We choose to do multiple choice options. So our elementary is set up, we have one hot, one cold, 2 fruits, 2 vegetables, we have a hot veggie, so we have an array that they can choose from. Our Glendon site, which is our middle school and high school, we have 2 hot, 3 cold, we have 2 just veggie salad bars, and then we have 1 fruit salad bar. So the students can come through and they can pick whichever they like. They choose 1 hot or 1 cold, and then all the fresh fruits and vegetables that they feel that they could consume. So then when they go through, as they go, they might decide, oh, this banana today, I've had enough, I don't want the banana, we could put it in there. Or they decide they don't want their milk, they could put that in there, different things along that line. Now, students can purchase extras or a la cartes, which would be like an extra slice of pizza or an extra cheeseburger or a sandwich along that line. But everything that we're set up on, all students within the district, no matter what, have a choice to what, hot or cold, and all the fruits and vegetables.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Flacco.
Does your school district have any mandatory takes? I know one of the things I had feedback from many years ago in Fargo was, you got to take milk no matter what. You got to take, I think, peaches, not to pick on peaches.
Yeah.
No matter what, because you need a fruit, and then they take it and they throw it in, container and all. Do you have mandatory takes?
Yes. Okay, so there's offer and there's versus serve. So if you are a serve site, you have to take all 5 components. And that is however the district set up. Rules say, though, that at a high school, you have to be offer. So let's look at serve. Serve is you have your milk, your grain, your meat alternate, and your fruit and your vegetable. They would have to take a serving of all 5 to meet that requirement of the serve. So no matter what, yes, they'd have to take that. Now, if you're an offer site, you have to offer all 5 components, but they only have to take 3 of the 5, and 1 of the 3 has to be a fruit or vegetable serving.
This was kudos and recognition, but you have educated us a great deal about the public school food system. And so I sincerely appreciate not only you attending for your kudos and recognition, but sharing this information and having the entire opportunity for our meeting today to spend here and be part of the exchange. So thank you so much again for all of your work and for joining us today.
Yes, you have a great day.
Marvelous. Now we have our public comment opportunity. I do see that we have a number of members in our audience, and I would love to welcome people to come up to the podium and have a comment. As a reminder, there is a comment form available that's sent out with the meeting agenda, and so if you aren't able to be here, please let us know. Is there anybody available online to make a comment today? Nope, no comments online. I do see an audience member who would love to comment. Please join us at the podium and share your comments with us today.
Hello, I just wanted to say thank you guys for the work you guys do. I am an avid gardener and chicken lover in the city of Fargo, chicken enthusiast, and I just started chickening last May. And literally, like 2 weeks after getting my chickens, I invited one of my friends over to check them out. And the wife had wanted the chickens for 8 years and had been trying to convince the husband to get chickens. And I sit down with this guy and I chat with him about the benefits of chickens. And literally, their drive home, he's like, "Let's go to Runnings now and get chicks." And not exactly the wisest way to become chicken owners, in my opinion. Like we decided last Christmas to get chickens, and we did lots of research to make sure we were compliant with all the codes and regulations for the months leading up to May, so the 5 months or whatever. But yeah, just wanted to say thank you for that. And then Tim, you had mentioned people like chickens. I don't know if you can see this. This picture of one of my daughters with our chickens. Cool thing there, it has definitely increased like the love and like affection and also like peace in our home, which is really cool. And then fun fact, we included our chickens in our Christmas card. And then we also had friends that included their chickens in their Christmas card. So that was kind of like this is really cool. But just wanted to say thank you guys very much and have a nice day.
Marvelous, thank you. Are there any additional comments from the audience? No, as our chair Janice had mentioned, not only can you approach steering committee members with comments and suggestions, but you are welcome to email or message any of the food commissioners. We are all eager to have rich discussion as well as bring forth opportunities to add additional blueprints, explore, updating some of our materials. So thank you again for all of the comments and sharing time with us today. We're going to go to commission and steering commission roundtable. And so if you've got any updates or topics that are happening in the areas in which you reside or you represent, please share those events and those topics and workings with us. Oh, yes.
Hi, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I just wanted to give you a little update that Clay County is in the process of updating their land development ordinance. The current ordinance regulates construction, development, and land use in the unincorporated portions of Clay County in accordance with the 2045 Clay County Comprehensive and Transportation Plan and state and federal law. The drafts of chapters 1 through 4 are available for review on our Clay County website, and chapters 5 through 8 should be forthcoming. Comments can be submitted either to our office, and there's also a standing agenda item for public comment during our monthly Planning Commission meetings, and the next meeting will be January 28th. I encourage you all to share with anyone you may know that lives in the rural portions of Clay County.
Marvelous. Thank you for that update. That is very exciting. I know when the city of Moorhead just was looking at chickens, it was like, oh, what can we do to work with Clay County on that? And so I love to hear that that is part of the comprehensive plan that is being put in action. Again, not that plan on the shelf. That's very good to hear. Does anybody else have any policies or ordinances that you're working on or events coming up in the community? Yes.
I have an update about West Fargo City Commission and accepting community gardens. This past Monday night, a presentation was given to the West Fargo City Commissioners, and it was very well received by all commissioners. They have agreed to help promote community gardening within their community and to accommodate those who are interested in creating a new community garden. They also wanted to make sure the information about existing community gardens is now will be available on their website.
Excellent. That's a fantastic update. I'm a big fan of community gardens. That's just where I get my goosebumps and happy place. So any other events or happenings in our community? I would like to bring forth the Land to Table Food Stories, which is an exhibit at the historical Clay County Society Museum. And so they are having an opening reception on this exhibit that is Land to Table Food Stories from Clay County on Tuesday, February 11th from 5 to 7. It would be really outstanding to have a number of food system folks, like those in the room, show up to this event and check out the stories of food in the Clay County area. Seeing no other opportunities for comments, we will move on to future meetings. We have a steering committee meeting coming up January 27th at 1 p.m., as Janice had mentioned. That is housed at MetroCog, which is 1 2nd Street North in Suite 232 in Fargo. As an additional topic, our next commission meeting, because this commission space is busy, we will be meeting at MetroCog. It will still be recorded and posted. We will still allow community comments and attendance, which we encourage, but please mark your calendars to show up to MetroCog on March 12th at 10:30 a.m. We also mentioned the opportunity for making the connection with the Action Network more apparent and observant. And so please look for that next Action Network newsletter, which is coming out just this week, January 10th, just a few days. So look for those kudos and connections. I'm terribly excited to see that develop throughout the year of 2025. I don't see any additional comments or meetings in the packet. We do have all of our 2025 meetings published. And so if you're not able to watch or come and visit every meeting, we do appreciate visitors whenever they show up and enjoy the time and space with us. So with that, I am going to call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Marvelous. A second?
Steichen, second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Until next time, thank you, everyone.